Hey guys, this is the sample tutorial for FL Studio Mobile. So the first thing I want you guys to do is go ahead and open up a audio clip track, and then I want you guys to grab your sample of choice. So my sample today is going to be the Rainbow Road from Mario Kart Wii sample. So I'll go ahead and just kind of tap on that and bring it up here in the playlist. So there's two things I want you guys to kind of notice here, and that is at the beginning. At the beginning, you guys kind of see this flat line compared to all this chunky, audio over here. And this basically means that there is no sound at the beginning here. This flat line means there is no sound coming through the sample and it is quiet. Right. So that's the first thing I want you guys to notice. And the second thing I want you guys to notice is these kind of like big chunks of audio, right here, right here, right here. And this indicates kind of like the downbeats or the first beat of the measure or like the snare of the say sample. So if we play it here, you kind of see that the snare hits there, so that is the snare of the sample. And we can also use this later on to sync up the sample to our BPM and metronome. So that brings us to basically, that syncing up our sample to the BPM and metronome. But so the first thing I want you guys to kind of do there is get rid of all this right here. Like I said before, we don't need it because no sound is coming through. So do that and then bring your sample all the way to the beginning of the playlist and play it here. Alright, it's fine. Now I want you guys to do is basically put your metronome on. I already have mine on, but if you guys don't know how to get to it, tap on BPM and then press this little M up here and make it white. Alright, so now that your metronome is on, you're gonna want to sync up your sample to the BPM here, and the reason for that is so you can chop up your sample easier and also manipulate your sample easier. So let's kind of have the metronome on here and then play our sample. Let's see how off the metronome in BPM is. So dang, our BPM is way off. So what we're gonna do is tap it in, and basically what we're just doing here is tapping in the downbeats or the metronome as it plays. No, we're basically tapping the BPM down as the sample has it. So you'll hear like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's play it and tap in our BPM. Alright, let's come back to the beginning. What you're gonna do is, because you're changing this the BPM of the entire thing, the audio clip is gonna kind of like shift here. So what you're gonna do is come back to the beginning and cut off all that audio that doesn't play there. There's no sound there, and then bring it back to the beginning of the playlist, and you're gonna do that same process again. So play it. It's a little slow, so what we can do is, because it's kind of close to the sample's BPM, is we're just gonna tap here. Let's do 160. Let's see how it sounds. Not quite. It needs a little bit more speed. It needs a little bit more speed, so we're just gonna tap it by 2, kind of make it even here, and also make sure our sample is starting where it needs to be, right there. All right, let's go ahead and play it here and see what it sounds like. Right, so now that we have it straight on the BPM, it is synced up to our BPM and the metronome. There are two things we can do here. One, we can export this audio clip here so that it always starts at the beginning here where there's actually sound, and we don't have to keep on worrying about if there's no sound or something like that at the beginning. Or you could just work with it, as I said, like this without exporting it. But we're gonna export it. We're gonna export it as a WAV file, even though WAV files kind of they're they rely on your storage a lot because you know this one is gonna be at least 45 megabytes. It's way faster and it's honestly just it's better overall. So let's go ahead and make this a WAV file and export it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get another audio clip track up in here, and then what we can do is look at my tracks and look for that looks we're gonna look for that basically the sample we just exported, the WAV file we just exported. So let's look around for that right here. Alright, so we can turn the first one off because we don't need it anymore because we have our new one right here. And that sounds like this. Sync to the BPM. And there's one thing I want you guys to kind of notice here. When I tap on the first one that we just exported, you can see here the sync at the bottom right hand corner. It isn't white. But if you tap on this one, our exported file, it turns white. And that means that this new sample right here, or this audio clip, is basically synced up with the BPM at all times. So if I were to make it slower, 120, say, it'll sound like this. You can hear there, it is always synced up with our BPM. Let's make it a little bit faster, 170, say, 171. It is always synced up with our BPM. This also goes for the pitch if this sync is on. So like this, we're trying to change the pitch to -5. Let's say we wanted it a bit, higher pitched, +5. Right. So it'll always be synced with our BPM, and that is the reason why you can do all those things. But if you turn this off here, it won't sync with the BPM. So I put it at -5, right? Or +5. Right. So we want this on. But if you actually don't need it on if you're not gonna do all that, craziness there, because it's already been exported at 162. So we can turn this off and it's like that. So that is our first sample that we're gonna do. We're gonna do one more sample for this tutorial, and that one's a bit more difficult, you could say. But let's go ahead and open that one up. So let's delete this. All right, so the second sample we have here is actually in 3/4 times, and that means it isn't basically your generic sample, which is in like 4/4 for trap beats. So let's go ahead and try to find that here. All right, we got a Dark Souls sample, kind of a beat I did back a few months back. But you guys can see here, this beat is going to be in 3/4. Let me play it for you guys. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3. So this sample is in 3/4. So it's gonna be, I guess it would be harder for you to put it on the trap beat. I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit challenging for me, but there's always ways you can kind of manipulate the sample to kind of have that extra beat filled in. But I'll show you guys how to chop this one up real quick. So let's go ahead and start again. Like we did before, there's a bunch of, space here that has no audio, so we're just gonna chop that off, and then we're gonna move our sample back at the beginning of the playlist. So let's play here. All right, that's great. Now let's have our metronome on and kind of try to sync this sample up to the beat. Let's come back here, make sure our sample is starting where it needs to. All right, about here. All right, let's put that back. Kind of slow, so we're gonna have to tap this a bit. Again, come back over here, make sure it's starting where it needs to. Just a little faster. Let's make it 115. Oh, I messed that up. All right. Now, even if I were to keep on trying to find the perfect downbeat on every single one of these, it still might not be perfect because there is a human, playing the song, and there isn't just like an automatic metronome that's, being played in the background. So what we can do here is have it at 116. And right at these moments, what we can do here is kind of chop it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tab up here, tap, drag, let go, delete, and then drag this back over here. So this is how you're gonna chop in FL Studio Mobile. Tap, drag, delete. And there's a bunch of other options there that you can use as well. But this is the main thing. So now that you chop that, you can either move it, closer if you want it, or you can have it right there and kind of just use that for other chops as well. So right. So like this one right here kind of starts early. So you want it kind of hitting right about here. We can zoom out and kind of see the chunk. Yep. All right, let's see how that sounds first of all. Now, there's only like a few ways you can really get away with trying to make it. Like if the person playing is going a little too fast, it is really hard to make the chop so that it's perfect. But if the person is going slower, it's a bit easier because then you have more sample to work with. So with this, the most you can do really is like, say, move this a bit, tiny bit to the right, so that at the beginning, even though there's space here, no one's really gonna care that there's space before the sample, right? Unless you're the producer, of course, doing the producing, but it's fine. Let's kind of just delete this part. Right, it kind of hits on the beat or the downbeat, even though it's not exact, it still hits somewhere. And so you can kind of just, chop until you guys get whatever, the best chops, the best sample you want. It's on the downbeat, it's perfect, like that. But that's the main point. That's the main point of what I'm saying here. You can keep on doing that. You can also, follow the, at the beginning, chop all that sound that doesn't belong there. Also at the end, there might be sound that you don't want there. And you can chop that off as well. Dang, this sample is very long. Alright. So you just have all this kind of like unnecessary space here. Go ahead and chop that off to where it really ends right about here-ish. Oh, it kind of fades out. Alright, that's fine. Right about here is where it really ends. But that's that. I guess I can go over a bit of this right here. So, you know, the tap, drag, and then plus. You can deselect. That just, you know, that basically cancels it. Insert space. It inserts a space right here. So this is what it sounds like before. This is what it sounds like after. Undo. Tap, drag, plus. Duplicate. It duplicates just this selected area. And it kind of also deletes the other part, this little part here. But this is what it sounds like. Yeah, it doesn't sound so good because I didn't, it's not, oh my goodness. Alright, that was weird. But, yep. That's that. Delete, of course, is to delete that selected area. Delete space. Basically, deletes this space and brings this side over to the beginning of where, you know, that sample would have started. Drag plus. Trim selection. Yeah, trim selection basically means you're only going to be using that specific selection of the sample. And you usually just want to do that once you actually have the sample synced up to the BPM. So it's basically, life will be a lot easier if you just have it synced up to the BPM. But yeah, guys, that is going to be all for this tutorial. I'll see you guys back with another tutorial actually in just a few, maybe hours or days, but it depends on when I feel like editing that video. But I'll see you guys in the next one.